There are those who believe that a small town is full of prejudices, and not a place where minorities can feel welcome. A young lesbian, Bree Palmer, started the first gay-straight alliance in Kirksville's high school and has experienced intolerance.
I was like the first person, I think, who was really openly out at Kirksville High School, and got called a pervert and got shoved a little bit.
The small town of Kirksville, Missouri has a population of approximately 17,000, and 94% of that population is white. It's a small community that could create the potential for racial tensions and other hate crimes based on personal values. A retired Truman professor and volunteer at the Kirksville Museum, Pat Eldbrook, says the Kirksville community is diverse in its political views.
Within the academic community, I'd say is pretty liberal, both at the Truman and at A.T. Still. You get out in the community, and particularly the rural area, you get a much more conservative view.
We cannot deny that hate crimes happen due to our individual bias, but the Kirksville community, with its few exceptions, has proven they can overcome the small-town stereotype of intolerance. Mayor Martha Rowe remembers how the community bound together to stop hate speech.
I can't help but think about when the young Marine died and the pastor from Kansas came over, and his thing was against gays in the military, which had nothing actually to do with this young man.
In 2006, Pastor Fred Phelps of Westbourne Baptist Church protested gays in the military at the funeral of Kirksville's fallen Marine Rex Arthur Page. Patriot Guard riders and community members stood in front of these protesters to counteract Phelps's followers.
How the community came out against that person and the demonstrations that along Baltimore against that were amazing, and to see the Marines cordon them off and not let them do their hate. And that's Kirksville.
The U.S. Department of Justice reported in their recent hate crime report from 2007 that over 7,000 incidents were reported. Over 2,000 were anti-black incidents. Kirksville only reported having 2 hate crime cases in 2007 based on race. This number would have been a lot higher during segregation in Kirksville. Pat Eldbrook recalls the difficulties African Americans once faced in this small Missouri town.
In '67, it was still a fairly segregated community. When you looked actually at how it functioned, you would very seldom see a black in a restaurant. In fact, there wasn't any law that they couldn't be there, but it was just they weren't there.
Even prominent white families of the community experience obstacles for interracial marriages.
I can remember 2 girls that married black athletes, and after they married, they couldn't get housing in town. And they were both those girls were from. One of them was a wife of a professor at Truman, and the other one was the daughter of the president of KCOM. And so it really didn't make a whole lot of difference who your parents were. You know, you're not going to put a black person in my house. And that was kind of or a black person in my apartment. And so you had that kind of thinking go on for a good while.
The famous Louis Armstrong played at Truman, and he too experienced the prejudice the town held for blacks.
About when Louis Armstrong was here back in the 1960s, and he was doing a concert here, and he couldn't find a place to eat. And so there's a man by the name of Bill Stukas that ran the Manhattan Cafe at that time, told whoever was looking for a place for him to eat, said, look, Bill Stukas said, if you bring him down here about 4 o'clock when no one else is in the restaurant, he can eat.
Eventually, Kirksville advanced past segregation. The new problem facing the community is the issue of equal rights for homosexuals. The U.S. Department of Justice reported that approximately 1,200 hate crime incidents were against sexual orientation. Bree Palmer recalls an account went out in the community.
I was out at the lake with my friends once, and one of my friends is his family is like of Sri Lankan descent, and he got called the N-word, and one of my friends was called a fag and punched, and that was by community members, and we called the sheriff and went through this whole court case. The guy got probation and had to write a letter of apology, but at least like action was taken.
Mother of Bree Palmer and PFLAG representative Sherry Palmer says she has described the town to homosexuals looking to move to Kirksville as a welcoming place.
I've raised a gay child in Kirksville, and so I see it from that side. I am not a gay adult myself to give personal information like that to what it's like for me, but it's just watching my child grow up here. It's been okay. No place at all is perfect. You're not going to go anywhere where everyone's going to be supportive. I was reading about one person who said the only time, he's a gay activist, and said the only time he was ever actually physically beaten up for being gay was in San Francisco. So, go figure. But I think Kirksville is pretty safe, and I told her it was pretty welcoming. And
when the City Council amended the housing bill to not allow discrimination based on sexual orientation, there was some uproar from the community.
I do believe there's more tolerance now. And just dealing with the City Council, with the issue of extending housing non-discrimination to homosexuals, using sexual orientation as something to be protected, it was 3-1 for it. And there was one person who was very vocal against it, and then a lot of his supporters have come out of the woodwork to misquote the Bible. And but the 3 people who supported it said, that's it, we're not going to discuss it anymore. Everyone deserves equal rights, and that's it, we're not going to talk about it anymore. So I take that as a good thing. I don't know 10 years ago if that would have happened.
Even with those who do not believe in equal rights for all, Kirksville's majority are willing to end the discrimination.
I think there are probably a lot more who are not going to come out and parade, but they certainly don't want gay people discriminated against. They just simply don't. And they're not going to discriminate against gay people, and I think that's the majority.